Alrighty, welcome back to the dludgolf channel. I got an interesting one. Welcome back to the dludgolf channel. I have an interesting one for you today. Something that I've noticed over my GSPRO and simulator life, certainly since getting the uneekor iMini. We're going to compare in this video cheap golf balls versus a more expensive premium golf ball. And we're only going to talk about chipping and little wedge shots. And I want to show you what I've noticed, and we'll prove it to you with some data, and it should be a lot of fun. It's not what you think when it comes to a cheap ball and a nice ball around the greens. I think there's a little misconception. For our cheap ball today, WILSONSTAFF Zips. They're about less than $1 a ball. And for our expensive ball today, Pro V1, okay, a couple-year-old Pro V1 versus WILSONSTAFF Zip. Now, these are two-piece. I think that's the main characteristic of a cheaper ball, is that it has an inner rubber core and an outer shell. The cheaper balls, in my experience, the cheaper balls, they get nicked up more, but it's because this outer layer is so freaking hard and deflective that it's scratching and digging rather than compressing and going away, right? So a softer ball, this is a 5-piece, the Pro V1, so it's got 5 different layers, and that helps it compress even on short shots. So what I've noticed, and we'll start off with the Pro V1, because that's going to be probably what most people are used to seeing. I'm going to try my best to take the exact same shots with a Pro V1. And what we want to pay attention to over here on the stats is vertical launch angle, spin, and peak height. Okay, how high is it going? And that's what I think the main differences will be between these balls. And really, you might end up liking a cheaper, harder 2-piece ball around the green, and I'm going to show you why in a second. All right, normal Pro V1, 20-yard pitch. So we go 4,200 spin, a vertical of 40, and where's my peak height of 10.9. All right, let's try and replicate that a couple times just to make sure we got a consistent strike. And we can see the strike on screen and how it deflects up. Similar, peak height 10, spin a little lower, and vertical a little lower. I had a little more speed on that one. And that's what I see with these premium balls. We'll go back a little bit too and show you. All right, it's a good representation. You can see I'm not closing the face down. It's a very neutral, almost face open, just pitch shot. We can see the second the club hits the ball, we start getting backspin, right? It digs into this ball and spins it up in the air. Let's switch over to the cheaper ball. It's in my pocket still. WILSONSTAFF Zip. A very hard 2-piece ball. I do find that if you like hit driver with this one, you might get some lower side spin numbers, some lower spin numbers in general because of these properties. And so I often in here, I'll tee off with these cheap ones. A, because if they break or something, no big deal. And then B, I get some good spin numbers with them. And then I'll do iron shots and wedges with the Pro V1. Although around the greens, I'm coming around to these cheaper ones. Let me show you why. Same swing. Let's keep in mind a peak height around 910 and vertical launch of 33, 34. So same swing, and we can check the club head speed. I didn't check that, and we'll do a couple more. But vertical launch 45, and you can see on the slow-mo, It hits it. It doesn't rotate as fast, but it deflects kind of straight up in the air. Peak height of 16, so 5 feet higher. And the spin came way down, right? 44,000 to 3,000 on a short chip. Let's do it again. And it carried, right? Because it's higher in the air with no spin, we got bigger carry numbers. I dialed that back. I'd be curious to see. I need to check the mile. We'll do another round here a little farther back, and it's the same kind of properties. What I've found, though, is the farther you go back, the more that these profiles come together. So the more club head speed you're putting into it, and the more de-lofted a club is, the closer these two balls become in performance. But around the greens, it's almost very, very different. To launch 10 degrees higher is pretty crazy. Again, spin in the threes, vertical launch 40, peak height almost 2 feet to 5 feet higher than the other one. Let's move back and we'll do it again at about 30. And then I want to go green side first. Okay, perfect. Pocket the Wilson. Get our Titleist back. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay, again, so let's say on something where you're just trying to keep the face a little more square now and a chip and run. Let's look at the different profiles of that. Face more square, just right of the hole. Okay, with the face more square, launch was down, spin was down, and of course we're doing way less input, right? So only a 4 carry. Peak height of 2 though, so it stays nice and low. You can see on the screen it deflected pretty good. It was a little thin, but that's the shot. A little short, but that's the shot I wanted to capture. 2300, 33, and a peak height of 3. One more. Okay, same thing. It was almost identical. Cheap ball, exact same little pitch shot. I want you to notice how much higher it comes off the face with just these little ones too. I paid attention to the speed that time. It's almost the same. So very similar input. We get 37, peak height of 4, and lower spin all the way down to 22. $34, 3.4. That one a little less hard, and 24. Yeah, that came out high and kind of fluffy with no spin. So that's just the ball, right? So if you want to hit low, spinny, chippy ones, and the ball just comes off like a balloon every time, it might be your ball, okay? It might be one of these harder covered balls that has no compression at low speeds and just deflects straight up with no spin. 57. Okay, Titleist from 57. We're switching clubs now too. My sandwich spins more than my lob wedge, but let's do Titleist 57. Try and do the same swing here. $60, it's fine. So we got 31 launch, peak height 38. Let's try and replicate that. I chunked it, but not horrible. Peak height 30. That one was down a little because of the chunk. 29 launch. One more. That's going to be shorter, but that's kind of what I see when I hit premium balls with this club. A more forward-looking shot And that one was all the way up to 7,500 spin and 29 launch. Now, same swing, same distance, but the cheaper two-piece ball. Definitely higher. Got all the way up to 38. That was the max on the other one. 34 launch, 66 spin, down 1,000 from that last one. And that's just the picture on GSPRO. It looks much higher arc than what we just saw. Dialed. Spin still down. Peak height 33, launch 32. That one was pretty similar except spin down. It looks like do I have descent angle anywhere? I don't think I do. Descent angle would also be a good one to see how these are coming in. Maybe for another video. All right, one more Titleist and one more premium. We're gonna do a full sand wedge and we'll see what kind of numbers we get. I think it starts to level out as you swing harder. So Titleist. 10,000, 30, peak height 75. That was a normal full sandy for me. 10,000 spin, 30 launch, 75 height. All right. I need the same swing. Oh, I even pushed it exactly the same. So actually pretty similar launch and height, but we lost 1,200 spin and distance because the spin didn't keep it in the air. So here's where I would start to say your differences are no longer a preference of whether you want to hit a higher, less spin lob onto the green, or you want to hit something a little more firm with some spin that's a little lower and check. I think to do those lower shots, you have to have like a premium golf ball. There's nothing I could do. I could turn the face completely down to the toe and try and like tie spinner that WILSONSTAFF, and it'll still try and launch pretty high. I think that is good for players who struggle to get in the air. Maybe they should just forget buying Pro V1s for a long until they get good compression, because the Wilson on a 5-iron is going to try and launch higher, and on a wedge, if you got to go over a bunker, trying to hit a low spinner over a bunker is a lot more nerve-wracking than just hitting like a little rainbow. So I use it to my advantage in the sim. Like I said, I'll tee off with whatever ball I want, and I'll hit iron shots with the more spinnier one. And if I got to hit a flop shot, I'll grab the one that goes a little higher. But there's certainly enough difference to play a different ball for different situations, which means there's probably enough difference for you to consider either switching balls or trying a different one that's in the 2 or 3 piece category and a little harder if you're struggling to get chips in the air. It may just be, a little technique, but a little bit of how that ball responds to the club. So something that I've been playing around with, certainly in my sim space, as to knowing which balls kind of benefit a different situation, and which ones will hold the green more, which ones will go a little higher. If I need to get over a tree, I'll grab the other one, right? And that's within about 100 yards. I think once you get outside of that, they tend to perform pretty similar as far as, height and launch. And then we just get spin differences, which if I'm hitting like a hybrid into a par 5, and I actually want a little less spin, try and get some distance out of it, or roll it up there. And so in that case, you could grab the cheaper ball. This is kind of like pretty analytical, but I have them all sitting around, and so I just instinctively go, I'm going to hit this one over a tree, let me grab that one. And I do it enough that I thought I should make a video about why I do it and what I've seen on the launch monitors that has made me come around to that conclusion that I can use that to an advantage in a sim round. Obviously not really outside. I just stick to one ball outside. I'm not dropping the spinnier one by the green or anything. I just use whatever outside and get used to it. But it is interesting to see the different paths the ball takes. The descent angles are definitely different if the height and launch and spin's different. And you can see kind of where those were ending up, right? The higher, floatier ones with less spin actually came up short more times than not. And then even with their added rollout, didn't quite get there. And then the ones that were spinnier and had a little more action in them tended to go a little longer. And so that's the conclusion that I've come to. Two-piece, hard, kind of cheaper balls tend to go higher around the greens with less spin, but have a better descent angle around the greens, and maybe would be easier for some people to control because they won't have to try and compress and spin it. You can hit it more like a putt, and it'll just kind of pop up in the air. So that's it for this video. We have concluded our little chipping test, and I hope you got some useful information out of that. I want to do more club testing, ball testing, use the technology in here, use the uneekor and GSPRO technology to do so. So if you're a person out there who needs something tested, hit me up on Discord or Instagram, and always follow, like, subscribe to the channel. We'll see you. Peace.